Hello Africa, you're welcome once again to AgroLink on AAU TV. AgroLink is a platform dedicated to promoting agricultural activities on the continent and specifically from the higher education perspective. And currently, we are looking at sustainable initiatives from the higher education perspective. We'll go for a short break and when we come back, we shall start this interesting discussion. My name is Nana Ismail. Hello Africa, you're welcome to AgroLink on AAU TV. AgroLink is a program that aims at showcasing and highlighting agricultural activities on the continent. You're welcome back from the break. Doc, welcome to AgroLink.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so now can you please introduce yourself to the viewers?
Okay, my name is Dr. Kofi Atiah from the Upper East, as the name sounds. And I'm a trained soil fertility and plant nutrition specialist. So I look into fertilizers, fertility of soils, organic, inorganic, and everything. I'm with the Department of Soil Science and the senior lecturer.
Okay, all right. So now let's look at what sustainable agriculture means to you based on your field of specialty.
From my field of specialty, I deal with fertility and I also deal in plant nutrition. So we're looking at sustainable sources of plant nutrients, something that farmers can reliably rely on, which doesn't cause too much of economic hardship to them. And in the end, whatever their options are does not adversely affect the environment. So we look at it holistically from economics, governance, sociocultural perspective.
Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so now I'm looking at soil fertility. You realize that in today's world where food insecurity and other nutritional challenges are actually what developmental partners are focused on trying to reverse these, you realize that there are a lot of issues that farmers face, lots of issues that individuals face. People are now even advocating for home gardening.
Yeah.
And some will say, my land is not fertile. My land doesn't, there are a lot of issues surrounding these.
That's true.
Yes. So what do you think, or why do you think soil scientists are not actively being engaged, especially now that most countries are pushing the drive for food security?
It's a tough question. It's one that has a lot of underpinnings. One, soil science is a specialty within the agricultural framework of discipline, where most of the time it has to do with a little bit of chemistry and a little bit of physics and small amount of mathematics. That's how I see it.
Okay.
And you know the phobia surrounding the idea of anything that has maths and anything that has some chemistry. But other than that, what drives you to be a soil scientist is that whatever you had experiences from, be it from the senior high school to the university level, you are now seeing what you've been taught practically. So for instance, in the lab, for one of the parameters we use to gauge the fertility of the soil is organic carbon. And this is where whatever is taught in the class and whatever you've been taught at senior high school concerning titration is brought to bear. So you are seeing double indicator, single indicator, back titration at work. If you talk of available phosphorus, which is a very critical plant limiting nutrient in as far as tropical soil fertility conditions are concerned, is what we also assess as soil fertility specialists. And you see chemistry at work as you work in the lab. Oh, so this is what our teacher taught us in secondary school, and this is what we are seeing now. So it's a very interesting, so that's why we belong to what we call the applied sciences. Whatever you learnt, you are now applying and you are seeing the relevance to economic development. So one of the challenges I would say is the phobia surrounding chemistry and physics, as I mentioned earlier. The other challenge we face is the lack of absorption when one completes most of these programs.
Okay.
And I think it has to do with policy. You and I are aware that quite significant changes have happened to our curricula governing the country's education. And you can quickly check from the textbooks of integrated science, and you will see how minute the section of soil is even in agriculture. So if the person doesn't have the very good understanding, he or she creates a fear in the children, and that's it. It kills the interest. The other side is also policy, because it has to do with capacity building.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you visit most of our ministries, departments, and agencies under MOFA, soil is conspicuously missing. It has to do with animals and crops. I think it's recently, maybe I stand to be corrected, that the MOFA Directorate and the Ministry of Food and Agriculture is bringing in an aspect of environment and sustainability, and hence then the soil is playing a key role. So I think we'll get there. We only need a bit of advocacy and the relevance. And luckily for us now, global warming, the largest carbon storer as far as terrestrial ecosystems are concerned, has to do with the soil.
Yeah.
And that is where the interest in soil, nutrition, and global health. So we call it One Health Planet now. And that is where the interest of soil science is actually inching up and getting closer to people. And it's getting the needed attention now.
You realize that taking Ghana even as a case study, you realize some of the things, we have a lot of vast lands that are yet to even be cultivated.
Yes.
However, you realize that we can't even feed ourselves. We are not that much.
Yeah.
We can't feed ourselves. We are actively relying on other countries within the continent and even out of the continent to feed us, even things that we can actively produce here. So in your opinion, as a soil fertility expert, why do you think we are struggling in line with this?
It's largely policy. You see, the people have motivations. You have to look at what is the person's motivation. Can I derive or shift the motivation towards a needed national goal? Your inability to identify that motivation kills it right from the onset. Yes, when you drive along the outskirts of the major cities, you will notice there are vast lands. They remain uncultivated, possibly because we feel we are food secure. Yes, I think we are living in a state of self-denial, that we are indeed not food secure. Recently, when there was a coup in Niger, we saw it, just the impact of non-availability of onions. We're feeling it, because in our dishes, onion plays a key role as a major ingredient. So I think we haven't come out of that realization that we are indeed not food secure. And for that matter, we need to do more and go beyond subsistence. But then a lot of times when you want to go beyond subsistence, our focus tends to go on export crops.
Yeah.
But I think we should marry the two. We should look at what we need first, because they say charity begins at home. You can't be hungry whilst your people you are producing for are belly full, to put it lightly. So I think we are living in a state of self-denial. We need to really paint the picture, because the little external shock, we are in deep problem. And I think that's one of the biggest things. We have the vast land. The other reason I attribute to most of this uncultivated land is we don't have a very good network of input flows. The reason why I say this, you see, farming has gone just beyond using the hoe and the cutlass.
Yeah.
We need to be attracting the youth. Someone put it, let me borrow someone's word, said we need to make farming sexy. Yeah, on front magazines, you see an agricultural student and he's standing just like that.
Like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of swag should be in it, but we should use what the youth need to get attracted. If you've noticed, most of our parliamentarians and well-to-do in society rather are into agriculture.
Agriculture, exactly.
So what does it mean? It tells you agric is financially heavy input driven activity. But then we keep telling them, go into agri. Where is the resource?
And even the know-how. You
The
don't just
know-how.
start. Where
do I go for information? Though this disconnect is actually what is pushing people away from agriculture.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect between input, there's a disconnect between market availability, there's a disconnect between policy that gives, for instance, we have banks like ADB, but you go in there, their portfolio towards farming is quite shrinking over the years. Yes, because they realize that agric is not so incentivized. It's a little bit risky area to go into. So you and I, if you want to go into agri, they tell you to bring all sort of long records. It's because they want to be assured that in the event that your rain-fed dependent agriculture fails, am I going to get my money back? And we are dealing with banks that are rational. They need to make profit. So these three key things, we should leverage on technology to attract the youth. We should leverage on interconnectiveness, where the resources are integrated on a common platform, then the market. Then when these things are done, when you produce your oranges, you don't wait for marketers from Ivory Coast, for instance, to come in and even buy your produce on credit, and only God knows when they'll return and pay your money. And I think that's the scenario we have here along the horticultural belt in Central region. Our farmers can't even harvest and process their citrus.
And they've been in this business for decades.
Yeah, so what do you expect people within this catchment area, the youth? Do you think you can encourage such a youth from that area to go into orange plantation? He wouldn't. So now what we're seeing is there is a trend in shifting where people are cutting down food crops, cocoa into rubber. Yes, because that's where the cash is. And that threatens food security. So we have a long way to go, but I think a journey of 1,000 miles, as I've always said, and begins with a step.
Okay, all right. We'll go for a short break, and when we come back, we shall look at some of the initiatives that Doc is currently undertaking. Hello, Africa. You're welcome to AgroLink on AAU TV. AgroLink is a program that aims at showcasing and highlighting agricultural activities on the continent. Welcome back from the break. This is still AgroLink on AAE TV, where we've been looking at the role of soil scientists in promoting sustainable agricultural practices on the continent. Doc, okay, so you're welcome back.
Thank you.
Now let's look at some of the initiatives that you are currently undertaking and how impactful they are when it comes to sustainable agricultural practices.
Thank you for the question. We have quite a number of initiatives within the Department of Soil Science, actually even within the framework of the Soil Science Society of Ghana. Let me pick it from that perspective, then I come to our localized initiatives. I know presently the Soil Research Institute, which is the mandatory body within the CSIR, where we work collaboratively under different schemes and projects, are taking up soil map of the country. You know, it is a very good, soil is a resource, but then not until you quantify and see the limitations of your resources, it is difficult to do allocation. And so we are presently engaging ourselves in mapping the entire country to know the capabilities and the limitations of our soil. It informs on policies such as fertilizer subsidy, so that you don't distribute fertilizers anyhow and the quantity regardless of the soil. It informs policies on planting for food and jobs and other government policies. So that is one thing we are doing collaboratively at the national scale. Now at the department scale, under the framework of the School of Agriculture, we are currently doing a lot of initiatives such as what we call circular economy. Basically what we're doing is undertaking a lot of biochar projects and composting projects, because the soil requires carbon. but the carbon should be in various fractions so as to derive the needed nutrition for plants, but at the same time safeguarding the environment. I'm sure you notice as you move along the coast, probably on your way from Accra here, you see a lot of coconut waste. So one of our initiatives is converting this coconut waste into what we call the biochar. Then we incorporate it into what we call compost to make sure that during composting, minimal greenhouse gases are emitted with the incorporation of this biochar. There are other initiatives where we're seeking to optimize plant nutrition. So we currently have collaborative projects, for instance, with OCP Ghana. We have had one previously with Yara Fertilizer Company. All that we're trying to do is to reduce blanket fertilizer application policy, which is no longer economically feasible or viable and environmentally unfriendly. So we work hand in hand with them. We do fertilizer formulations, we test, and then we see how well the timing, the quantity, the ecology affects outputs. The other initiative we also engage in is trying to have children at the primary school level engage right from the onset. Yes, you've seen that anytime there is going to be a football activity, UEFA or the EPL or other leagues, children lead the players. Yes. There's a reason. And so, because anytime you have a product and you want sustainability, think about children. Sorry. They have longer years ahead. So we are engaging, we say catch them young. With the nearby schools, we are engaging them in clubs, in composting processes, so as to whip up interest right at the young stages of their life. So these are some of the initiatives that we are presently engaging ourselves in. We also have international collaborations, such as with the DFC, which is a Danida-funded project, where we call it Building Vegetable Resilience, Building Vegetable Farmers' Resilience to Climate Change. Okay. So all that we're trying to do is to convert a lot of empty fruit bunch. If you go to the oil mills of these Trifopras, Benz oil, after they have harvested their oil palm, the bunch that is left is only good as a source of heat.
Okay.
Meanwhile, there's a lot of fertilizer potential in it. So we currently have a 5-year project where we're running it together with the University of Ghana, with Aarhus University in Denmark, with the Cape Coast University, with the Department of Soil Science and Crop Science. And all that we're trying to do is to valorize it, changing waste into a valuable product that can increase the farmers' resilience against droughts and lack of nutrients. So that is ongoing.
Wow, they are doing a lot in line with promoting soil fertility.
That's what we can do from, we brighten the corner where we are. Yes, because one candle lights a lot. That is what we're doing.
That's very true.
Yes.
So you're doing a lot for sure. So how do these initiatives translate into the lives of the ordinary farmer?
That is a lot. The translation is actually unquantifiable. For instance, where a farmer expects rains to last for a certain period, and then suddenly it stops. Our intervention is to develop the compost and some of the biochar that we talked about, so that it acts like a sponge within the soil. So when you add it at certain quantities, because not all biochar are added anyhow to every soil, so we do what we call specification. So when it is in the soil, it holds moisture, it holds the limited nutrient that the farmer is struggling to even apply to the soil, because you and I are very much aware of the current and ongoing Russia-Ukraine war and how it has disrupted fertilizer supply chain. So the farmers don't even have the resources to acquire it, and the little they acquire is not properly being utilized in the soil. So this biochar co-compost technology is acting in two ways: holding moisture, holding nutrient, and increasing carbon. So in the long term, medium to long term, the farmer is well off than anyone who doesn't use that particular technology. So there's a lot
There's
we
a
can
lot,
get from it.
definitely,
Yes.
and
Yes.
clearly you're also collaborating with a lot of individuals and stakeholders.
Yes.
So looking at all that you're doing, definitely there will be some challenges that you might have faced or you're still even facing when it comes to dissemination, when it comes to even impact, when it comes to even starting the processes.
Yeah.
So what are some of these?
They are numerous. Finances, one, because you see, when you develop a technology, it has to be upscaled. So most of the time, for us at the research and development stages of these technologies, we aren't commercially inclined, else we lose focus. So we develop the technology. Now it is about someone partnering and doing the upscaling and commercializing. That is one issue. The other one is our infrastructure. We are doing so well under limited resources. We need well-resourced laboratories to go on to the next level of some of these, our prototyping or initiatives. That is the other one. Then the third one is we have farmers who are sometimes very difficult entities to work with. You tell them, do this, the next phase you come, they throw it away. They think, this is scratchy. This is scratchy. But then there are instances where people who have adopted some of our interventions come to tell us that, hey, we didn't know this thing could work. I did this, I thought it was a joke, but it is working. Yes, recently I had a call from one of the farms. We did some specialized fertilization for cocoa to control black pot disease. Now, after 2 years, he called back, said, please, where can I get your fertilizer? I said, what are you referring to? He said, the fertilizer you put at the other side of my field. For close to a year now, I've not seen black pod. I said, really? Oh, it's working. So please, I need evidence. Can you snap them, bring them to me, or you can come for me and then I can come and have visit. So, and these are evidence, but except that sometimes these evidences need to be properly documented because some of the impact live beyond project's lifespan. And you need some finances to do what we call the tracking to see the impact on some of these farmers. And these, I think, are some of the challenges. Talk less of us not also sometimes getting the human resources to venture into our discipline because of the fear of chemistry, mathematics, and a little bit of physics, as I've mentioned.
Okay, so what are some of the innovative ways you are using to combat some of these challenges?
There are lots of improvisation we do, for instance, when it comes to unavailability of standard laboratories. So what we do is sometimes an analysis that is supposed to take you about a week ends up taking you about 2-3 months because you need to call other laboratories around and then you have to transport them. And when you are transporting some of these things, it doesn't just have to be open. It has to be enclosed in special cases under special conditions. And that adds up cost of analysis or running experiment. Some of the other ways we also do is now try to involve farmers right on the conceptualization of a problem and interventions. So they are an integral part of the problem solving, identification and solving. So that by the time you finish, you don't really have to pay the person or motivate the person financially to really see the positive impact of your intervention. Then I think the other one is where funding. So most of the time we only have to keep on writing for grants. And in grant writing, you win or lose. You can write 10 grants, you may not even win one at all, but sometimes out of 10 you win one. So it is a little bit of working harder than we've been working and closing the gap between ourselves as researchers and the end users, which is our farmers.
Oh, okay. That's nice. Okay. Yeah. They are clearly doing a whole lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So now you have the platform to put out a call to individuals or stakeholders on support, on even mentality change or any other matter that you'd want to, subject matter you'd want to talk about?
Yes, there's a lot that we need to do as a nation. And here we're calling on policy formulators and implementers that soil science as a discipline has come to the fore, and it is more needed than it has ever been needed by society. We're talking of climate change, and the largest emitter apart from our industries is agriculture. And what we can do to reduce the 1.5 to about 1% degree in world temperature rise is to have sustainable agricultural practices, and that must begin with the soil. We need your help in mapping out the soils of our country. We need your help in coming out with curriculum or curricula that addresses the need, that allows fair representation of the discipline of soil science. Because soil, it is not debt. Soil is a resource that if we use and utilize it well, with the help of various stakeholders such as the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, with EPA, with various farmer groups and organizations, we can sustainably help increase the food security status beginning with the soil.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Okay. This brings us to the end of this episode of AgroLink on AAU TV, where we've been looking at the role of the Soil Science Department of the University of Cape Coast in promoting sustainable agricultural practices on the continent. My name is Nana Ismamba Sam. Until we meet again, keep watching AAU TV for more educational content.